Welcome, everybody, to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation's Live Better series. I am Rob Girth. I'm the Director of Digital Media here at the Foundation. And today we're talking to Dr. Dan. It's not his regular time period, so we're squeezing this in and making sure we get our fill of Dr. Dan this month. And today it's Dr. Dan on loving our bodies. And Dr. Dan and I are both really looking forward to this being a conversation. So to achieve that, we need to go over some technical details. So let me turn it over to our operator, Siglin, for that. Siglin.
During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. At the Q&A portion of the presentation, all lines will be in an open and interactive mode. To ensure the best audio quality, please use your mute button when not speaking. You may press 6-3 to mute your line and 6-6 to unmute. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, March 12, 2014. I would now like to turn the call back to Rob Girth. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And let me give that number to call in, because these webcasts, I'll call it, these webcasts are really the best when you guys call in. It turns into this wonderful. Now, see, I'm gonna age both of us, Dan. Dr. Dan used to do, and he still does, a version of this, but I don't know how long ago. Dan, you could tell better. But I used to listen to his call-in show all the time growing up. and it was just such a wonderful show, and it's part of the reason, that connection I had growing up around Philadelphia with Dan and then landing this job here is one of the reasons we got him to come and be on here. So this is really at its best when you guys are calling in. So let me give that number, and the number is in the chat, so you can see that there. And so let me give the call-in number. It's 800-747-0367, 800-747-0367. Dan, am I remembering that right? Did you have, or I know you still do a show, but is it strictly a call-in show now, or was there a call-in show? And I'm sure I was 6 or 7 years old when that was happening.
I'm not talking to you, Rob. I'm giving you the silent treatment.
That's bad. That's bad for everybody.
I have been doing the show for 28 years, and
that's the show on WHYY, which is public radio in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's now called Voices in the Family.
Right.
And it's on Mondays at noon. You can get that on my webpage. But yeah, it's a call-in show. Actually, this Monday I'm really excited about it. We've got Dan Goleman coming on. He's the guy who developed the whole concept of emotional intelligence that really changed the whole world of psychology, education, workplace, really changed the world. So
did you ever take calls during that show, or?
Always take calls.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, see that? I do remember it. And then let me do this favor for you, old friend. What's new, Dan? Do you happen to have a book that came out? How was that? That was a softball.
Thank you.
I've got really, seriously, though, tell us about it. I think it's very cool what you put together.
I got a new book that just came out last Tuesday. It's called The Wisdom We're Born With, Reawakening Faith in Ourselves, which is not unlike the topic of today's talk. Anyway, Rob, if you look at babies and toddlers, it's not really a wisdom in the traditional sense, but my God, they're filled with joy and happiness and love. And in a way, they are courageous and have faith. I watched my virtual grandson, who's now 5, I watched him take his first step. And I'd never seen that before because I was out working when my kids did that. Have you seen your kids, Rob?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to, I just have one son, and I was lucky enough, and he's 9 now, but I was lucky enough to be around for that, yes.
Well, I watched this baby, had his hand on a chair, and his mother had her hand outstretched beyond his reach, and he let go of the chair and reached for his mother and couldn't reach and got wobbly and held onto the chair. And he did that dance a few times. And then he finally let go and took a step towards his mother. And that act of letting go of what's familiar, letting go of what once felt secure, and taking a step into what's unknown is what I think faith and courage are all about. So that's the kind of wisdom we're born with, that he had the courage to do that, and most of us do not have the courage to let go of what felt secure, what feels secure, even if it doesn't feel good. And that can be even self-pity. You know, we hold on to it because it feels like it's the only thing we got, you know, or our feelings about our bodies, our negative feelings about our bodies. We hold on to it over and over and over again because that's all we've got. But babies have that wisdom. They have that wisdom to experience awe moment by moment in ordinary things.
And what I remember about that moment is the look of joy on his face.
Yeah.
That was just like, look at this. It was an amazing discovery. It was like a whole nother world opened up for him.
And we know it did. It sure did. But all that wisdom goes underground. All that delight goes underground. Now by the time kids are in elementary school, you know, when our kids become performance beings, just like that's how most of us see ourselves, as performance beings, that we value ourselves based on our performance. I mean, that's why disability is so hard, because we value ourselves based on our performance and productivity and our looks and our masks. And that's taken away from us. And we have to relearn.
And the trouble in schools is the teachers aren't trying to dig any deeper than that, because they have such rigorous standards they have to uphold and have to move things so quickly. So the kid that doesn't respond to that gets lost. And it's kind of the same as an adult. Like if you don't respond to a particular way of being approached, people are going to move on to the next thing.
Right. And if you do respond, you could find yourself 10 years later wondering who you are and what your life is about. So, wisdom is what we need. And that brings us back. And by the way, you know, I talk throughout the book about my disability and other disabilities, people who are physically healthy but have other disabilities, and the beauty that comes out of tragedy there. You know, the fact that that chair that Jacob was holding on to was pulled away from me. And us, now what? Now who am I? And now how do I relate to this body of mine? So that's the book. We'll talk more about it as things unfold and develop. But, you know, related to that, Rob, is the thing about the body. And, you know, I said in my opening chat that, you know, most of us, most humans don't feel good about their bodies, certainly don't feel kindly or compassionate. You know, they tell themselves, my body needs to lose 10 pounds and I'm not going to be happy with it until it's 10 pounds later, or 20 or 100 or whatever it is. And I'm not going to be happy with it until X, or now I have arthritic pain and now I'm even less happy with it. So, and with us, you know, in wheelchairs or other disabilities, it gets even worse for the reasons I mentioned here. You know, we consider ourselves performance beings, and we can't perform. So I'd really like to hear from everyone out there by chat or ideally by phone call about your relationship with your body today and over the years. What is it you feel about your body? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What is it? So
Let me give the number one more time so anybody that's not called in can call in. 800-747-0367. And let's see if anybody's on the line. So Siglin, you opened the line so anybody can just unmute their phone.
All lines are open.
Oh, somebody's there, I can see. So you need to turn down your speakers on your computer and just talk on the phone. And unmute is 66. So who's there? I know somebody's there because I just heard myself. I'll also say this. Mute is 63, so you want to mute if you're not going to talk. Go ahead.
somebody there, Ron?
Yeah, somebody's there.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Who's this?
Hi, my name is Sean, and I am an ambulating quadriplegic with TBI and stroke. So I know some of the challenges that I have are different than some of the folks that are listening, but I think everyone's challenges are unique to themselves. Certainly we all have certain things that are overlapping, but for each one of us, both the physical and the mental aspect of it are individual. I'm going to tell you, though, I went through a lot of challenges trying to find where I felt comfortable with myself and the new person that I was, the inability to do some of the things I used to do, and how that affected me psychologically as well. But I'm an athlete, and I get to compete and race with a lot of other athletes with physical disabilities, and they all went through this step or stage where they had to first accept what their challenges were, and then they had to find this new inner beauty and happiness within themselves and find peace.
Would you mind telling us about your process? Because that word accept is a tricky one.
I kind of look at it like, we all have dreams and goals. We start off with dreams, and then we identify goals, and then we've got to, meet our different objectives to achieve our goals. But in order to really be successful at that, you have to understand what your obstacles and challenges are. And for some folks, that might be the psychological scarring that they have. For other individuals, it might be something that's physical or financial or within their support or caregiver network. But we need to identify what those challenges are and accept them so that we can identify how we can champion them.
All right. So when you say accept them, what does that mean? That it doesn't mean all your physical issues are on a back burner, or does it? I know in the disability community, that's a tricky word. And when... Go on, please.
Oh, well, I think for everyone it might be a little bit different, but for me it was just understanding, okay, well, I'm not able to do everything that I used to do like I used to do.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I can't do them differently. It doesn't mean that I can't even do them better. I just have to do them differently. And so in order to do that, I first have to identify, all right, what is it? What are my challenges that prevent me from doing things the way that I used to do? What are the challenges that get in the way of my happiness or my feeling good about myself? And once I do accept, meaning that I understand that, okay, this is real. My life is different than the way it used to be, and I know that's not the way it is for a lot of people, but in my case it was trauma. But once I finally accepted all of the challenges that I had, not just some of them, but all of them, my whole world has changed.
Sure.
And
how long did it take you to get there?
Well, some of them I accepted in the first year. Some of the larger ones, it was 3.5 to 4 years that I finally started to accept them. But I know some folks that are 10 years post and they still haven't accepted everything.
Sure.
And so I try to mentor with them sometimes and say, look, why don't you make a list of all the things you think you do great, and then make me a list of all the things that you think are frustrating and you still have challenges with. And when their great list is huge and their list of challenges, there might be 1 or 2 things, and I know they don't have everything on there, it's like, well, then I guess you're all set. But when they're able to actually make a real list, then we can sit down and make a plan on, like, all right, so that's something that bothers you, or that's something that physically is challenging for you, or that's something that psychologically is just putting a roadblock in your way. Let's make a plan on how we can champion that one challenge, and then we'll go on to the next one.
Well, I think that's terrific, and that's kind of the definition of hope that really works. Hope is not a wish. It starts with a wish, but it turns into a plan, with steps to get there. What about your body here? Was that hard to begin to like it again, or did you ever?
I like it now. Some days I like it more than others, like anyone, But gosh, it probably took me, even with all the things that I was accomplishing, athletically and physically, that I was overcoming, it took me a couple of years to really kind of get past the point where it's like, look, I'm doing some really great things, and the things that I'm accomplishing are so much greater than, the fact that my arms or legs don't work the way that they used to.
Right.
Right. I'm getting to experience so many things in life that I probably wouldn't have experienced before. And even if I did, I wouldn't have had the perspective and appreciation for it the way that I do now.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of getting knocked on your ass. The world looks different. The world looks different. I really appreciate your call and your perspective.
Absolutely, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wanted anybody else on the line? Rob?
Yes, Dr. Dan. Donna from Connecticut.
Hey, Donna from Connecticut.
Yes, how are you? I think this is a great subject to talk about. I think it's extremely important, and I want to say that I would love to have Sean perhaps maybe be a speaker. I would go to any event that he had, or perhaps he should write a book. But congratulations on your new book. But he did a terrific job of explaining, and I think that even though I myself don't have a disability, but as you know, I'm a caregiver, and I just want to say that this is such a great thing to talk about, because we had our Twilight Gala the other night for the Connecticut chapter of the NSCIA, and I experienced all of the men, dressed up in suits, looking handsome, and the women dressed up in gorgeous things. And I know that as an able-bodied person, I don't believe that we all want to obtain what we see on television or newspapers, magazines, and we all want to strive for perfection. And I think that it's difficult for all of us, even myself. We have to try every day to be comfortable with our bodies. And I think that this subject is so important because, first, we wake up every morning, and like Sean said, I like myself better some days than others. And other days I don't like myself, no matter what I wear or put on. And I think that it's such an important thing to be able to champion that particular thing and love our bodies. And it is a process to go through acceptance. And I think as we grow older, we're all going to experience that whether we do or we don't have a disability. And then when we all start having a need, say perhaps with a cane or a walker or a wheelchair, with whatever disability we have, we feel that it takes away from the model-like image that the world has set out there. And I think that it's a long process, and I think it's so psychological. Like I said, I believe it's because we want to achieve the look of the perfect athlete, per se, or the perfect model. And I think that this could be a whole other book, learning to love our bodies and accept what we are, be the best we can outside and inside, but be comfortable with that. And I think it's a huge challenge, and I give them all credit. But at the other end of the spectrum, I must say that I don't really see the wheelchairs anymore. I've been involved as an advocate and volunteer for many years, and I see the great men and women that are changing our world. I'll be in Washington, D.C. for a role on Capitol Hill in June, and I just see extraordinary people, doctors, lawyers, writers, authors. Dr. Dan, you look terrific. I just see extraordinary people. I am so in awe of the athletes and the Olympians and our own Candace Gable, and I just think that you're all incredible. And I don't think you. I think we perceive ourselves much differently than other people perceive us or see us, so to say.
Well, listen, I've got to jump in here. There's a couple of things you said here.
Mm-hmm.
And you used the word we, and I want to talk about Donna, if I may.
Okay.
And you said we, Donna, all want the perfect bodies. And I think to a certain extent that's true. But I don't think you consider your body perfect. Right? Or do you?
No, I don't think that we ever can really obtain perfection. I think that even the models don't. I think we always strive on a daily basis. And
so
like I said, some days I like myself, certainly.
So stick with me here.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have a perfect body in your mind. So
right.
Tell me about your relationship with your body. I don't want to know day by day, but how do you feel about it in general?
Right. Well, certainly. In general, I think that every day. I think that you have to struggle. It's a struggle with maintaining the perfect weight. Skincare, which is so important with a disability. Skincare, everything, and I think that I always feel self-conscious of how I look, and I think that it's very difficult, to be in all honesty. I think it's a challenge. I really think that, like Sean said, I'm happy for anyone that can champion that and get through that, but I think we all have insecurities about our bodies.
Well, here's the deal. I remember early on that after my accident, I was down in Atlantic City on the boardwalk, just zipping up and down the boardwalk. And, I went past a store, and they've got, these big windows. And I looked in the store, and I saw a guy in a wheelchair kind of zipping by, and my first thought was, oh my God, look at that guy. And I realized that was my own reflection. And,
Right.
and that speaks to the amount of shame I felt about
It's horrible.
the way I looked and the way I felt. And I talk about how over the years, initially, that I was ashamed of my body, and then I hated it because of what it did to me or what it didn't do to me. I hated the spasms. I hated the UTIs. I hated the fact that my legs didn't move. I hated my big belly. I hated it all, and I hated my body. And then, over time, I guess I kind of acclimated. I wouldn't go as far as say accept, but I kind of acclimated to this body. And now, as I get more sick, more frequently, I really have come to appreciate this body and how hard it works to keep me alive and how insulted it has been. I mean, in the literal sense, how many insults it's endured over the years and still keeps on ticking. And I just feel such kindness and gratitude for this body. And yes, I still hate my big belly. I still work very hard to get pants that fit just right so that it gets hidden. I wear most of my shirts on the outside of my belt, all those things. So I like to look nice, but that feels very different than my relationship with my body. It's two things. I've disconnected those two things.
It's
feel
great
lucky.
how you work through it. That's a wonderful thing. I think that you said it so beautifully, and that's why you're such a great writer. I think those words are remarkable. You're a miracle, and you help all of us all the time, and I think that it's an extraordinary way to explain it. And I understand that because all of the people that I work with that are in chairs, and I think the women have more difficulties because they can't exercise in the same way, and they all have that, the belly issue like you spoke of, and I think that no matter what type of dress or suit you buy, that you can be satisfied with that, but the body is a very hard thing to get to love. But I think you're in a good place because then when you realize what your body does for you every day, you have a different relationship with it because it's actually a miracle, I believe. It's amazing what our bodies do.
The other thing I've been able to do, and I want to chat with Brad Shepard here when we're done, but what I have done to compensate for my thing about appearance and always wanting to look good, what I've done is I have mastered the art of flirting. So, because I'm so good at that,
you look great.
Overlook it. Donna, thanks so much for calling.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dan, and I can't wait to read the book. Thank you very much. Wonderful
always
subject.
Good hearing from you.
And same here. Bless you, Dr. Dan.
You too. We have somebody calling in or calling out?
I'm not sure what that is.
Brad.
Yes, I'm on the phone here.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, tell me. Let's talk. I see in your chat here, you've worked with your hands all your life, and now you can't, and of course you feel frustrated. Tell me, what's it like to be you, to live inside your skin?
I try to put on a good front. But on the inside, it's this life is nothing, you know. And I feel ashamed of saying that because I have a beautiful, caring wife and loving family. You know, I try to remember the things to be grateful for.
Listen, Brad, no need to be ashamed of these emotions because probably everybody who's listening has felt them. So why don't you tell us some more about what goes on inside? Sorry, I had to sneeze.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
You missed it because my body was trying to decide if it wanted to sneeze, and that kind of overruled my mind. Tell us more about what it's like on the inside. Brad, what's it like to live inside your skin? Tell us more. You interrupted yourself when you said you felt ashamed.
I don't know that I'm able to do that right now.
Okay. Is it too painful for you?
Yes.
Okay. Would you tell us about your injury?
It was a diving accident, and 5, C6, C7. Coming up on 3 years in August.
And if it was diving, I'm going to take a wild guess that you're a young guy?
Well, no, I was trying to act like a young guy. 53.
How old are you?
Beg your pardon?
How old are you?
53.
Oh, 53. I got good news for you. That I'm 67, so I can still call you a young guy.
Okay.
Which is good news for you. Kind of sucks for me, I guess. So this is only 3 years for you.
Yes.
And you're still feeling pretty depressed?
No, like I said, I put on a good front. And some of it, sometimes I even fool myself. And sometimes, you know, life is okay.
Yeah. So here's what I want you to do, right? Try to notice 3 or 4 times during the day when you're putting on the front, or whether you're not, just notice how you feel at that moment 2 or 3 times during the day. Because here's what the brain does, and all of our brains, that when we've experienced a trauma, or when we define our lives as XYZ, at the end of the day, all we remember is an awful lot of the pain we endured. And because the good things we tend not to notice during the day, because that's not part of the way we're defining our lives. Now, you're past that because you can be aware of good things in your life. But I want you to try to be aware of them as they're happening. So you've got a wife who, do you feel love for or love from or both?
Both.
Okay. So
And
when
the relationship has changed greatly.
How so?
Well, the physical relationship is almost non-existent. And to me, that was a big part of our relationship.
Yeah.
And probably to her also.
Well, you know, you just said an awful lot when you said probably to her also. Have you two talked about this?
Yeah.
You have.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Do the two of you feel ready to explore ways of having sex that are going to be more comfortable for the two of you?
Well, we have explored some, but I just think that it's still just too much for her. My desires overcome the obscurity of it, where I don't know that she has that has experienced that yet.
Has
I don't know.
experienced, but I couldn't quite hear you, Brett.
I'm sorry. We have experienced and explored sex, and there's so much to it now.
You mean mechanically?
Mechanically, the spontaneity is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
In order for me to function, I have to use the shot, which doesn't always work. So there's a whole, I know what it looks like from behind my eyes, and I just can't imagine what it looks like behind her eyes.
What does it look like from behind your eyes?
From behind my eyes, that I missed that part of my life so terribly. I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah. Anything to reclaim what you've lost.
Well, I'm intelligent enough to know that I'm not going to reclaim all that I lost.
Right.
But I would like to have some sense that part of our relationship, that there's still something there.
Yeah. And you say you don't know, you can only imagine what it looks like from her eyes. This is really, really important for you guys to talk about, and if you have that resource in your community, with a third person, so that you can talk openly and honestly without having to be protective of each other. And that's what happens with a lot of these talks, that they're not fully open because we're always worried about what she's going to think, and she's worried about what he's going to think. Nobody wants to hurt the other person.
Right.
I do want to say this. I remember I could have screamed in emotional pain early on, that I couldn't feel my penis, that I couldn't be on top of my partner, that I couldn't have an orgasm in the way I desperately wanted one. And I felt that I couldn't satisfy my partner. I haven't felt that way in 15 years, maybe more, maybe 20 years I haven't felt that way. Because the brain accommodates. It's like my brain figured out, oh, this is how we have sex now. And yesterday seems to have drifted away. Every now and then, especially I've had a new partner for the last 4 years. Every now and then, when she touches me down there, I just ache to feel it. But it's not constant. As a matter of fact, it's rare that I piggyback on her sensations, and I can almost feel what she feels when she feels it. And that's what sex means to me now in my brain. And as she gets worked up, I get worked up. And as she plateaus, I plateau. I have the same physiologic reaction that I did. The sensations are different. But the reaction is the same. My body reacts the same way as it did all those years ago. But it's nothing magic. I think it was just my brain figuring out what sex means now. And it can only be done in a good relationship with a loving partner who, A, understands that the goal of sex is not orgasm. And I don't know about you, but we guys have to learn that. And that took me many, many, many years to figure out that women viewed sex differently than we did, that orgasm was not the be-all and end-all of sex for a lot of women. I didn't get that. Still don't quite. But there's a lot of learning. Did you see, what's the movie I'm trying to think of? The Sessions with Helen Hunt.
No.
All right. Please watch that with your wife and talk about it. If you can get access to it, I'm sure it's out in video.
It's called what now?
The Sessions.
The
Like
session.
the psychotherapy sessions.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
these are sex therapy sessions. And it's just an incredible, poignant movie. And the lead actor in this movie has post-polio. And he's paralyzed from the neck down.
Okay.
All right? Please be patient with yourself. And please ask your wife, or tell your wife I said the same thing. You guys have to talk and figure out what works best for you. But, sex is just another way to express love to each other. And, I have turned these preparations that we have to do, that turns into foreplay for me.
Well, yeah, and I would imagine that is, having that attitude is the only way to deal with the preparations, as you put it.
Yeah, and it's an attitude, and it's also chronic horniness. I don't know if I should have said that publicly. If my partner heard that, she would kill me. But I love that kind of intimacy. I just love it. All right.
Okay.
Please keep us posted on the chat, or you can email me directly if you would like. I'll be responsive. Okay?
Okay. Sure.
And by the way, Rob Garth just put in that information about the movie.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
He's a crack researcher.
Yeah, the internet is great.
All right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. I will. You too.
This is
Great. And Brad, you can stay on the line. You just want to mute your line 63. Just hit 63 and that'll mute it. Should we see if we have time to talk to one more person?
Yeah, I do.
Let's see if there's anybody there. So you would unmute 66 and speak up. Anybody else on the line?
Hello.
Go ahead. What's your name?
Ben Grauer.
Hey, Ben, I see you.
How's it going? I don't know, when it kind of comes to self-image and stuff, and body acceptance and everything, I have a hard time just kind of taking it face value, just because before my injury, I had the ability to change what I thought other people perceived of my body, and now it's just this bag of meat, which isn't receptive to what I wanted to do. So I really dislike mine.
You keep cutting out.
Oh.
You there? You dislike your what? Oh, that's better.
Yeah, it's just I always think about body association as before being injured, having an opportunity to change it and kind of craft it into what you wanted it to be. But after the injury, it just seems like you have no say in it whatsoever. And that's kind of the most frustrating part for me.
Yeah. There's nothing more difficult for us than powerlessness and helplessness. And yeah, you've got less power over your body than you did before. I remember early on being so angry at my body that the only thing I could do for it was to keep a step ahead of problems. So I had to drink all this fluid, and I didn't like drinking, and I had to eat all this fiber, and, and I couldn't eat a lot of crap food, which I shouldn't have eaten anyway, but now I can. And so I really resented it because it didn't do for me what I wanted it to do. But I want to pick up on something someone else said in the discussion. What is your overall life like, Ben?
Overall, it kind of feels like it's limited in more capacity than it should be.
How so?
Just being unable to, get out and do the things I want to do, whether that be logistical reasoning or the fact that, I had a big lunch and now am incredibly lightheaded and don't want to, sit upright in bed and stuff like that, which all kind of circles back to having an uncooperative body.
Yeah. So I take it you're a quadriplegic.
Yep.
And you're around C4 or 5, that neighborhood?
Yep.
Yeah. It's not that I'm a brilliant diagnostician, but because I live that same adventure, and I'm C5, 6, about blood pressure.
Yeah, that's miserable.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is miserable. Look, I tell us, how long have you been injured?
Coming up on 5 years.
Yeah. I tell a story about in my office, maybe 10 years after my accident. I was treating an obese man who at the time was older, must have been about my age now. And he sat down in a chair that was probably too low. He should have sat in one of the higher chairs. So it's the end of the session, and he's struggling to get up. And I offer my wheelchair, he can pull himself up on it. So he finally gets up, and he struggles, And he stands up, and he looks down at me, and he says, Dan, he says, I struggle to get up out of the chair, and I look down at you and I think, thank God I can get up from that chair. And I said to him, you know what? I have to tell you the truth. I was watching you struggle to get out of that chair, and my thought was, thank God I won't have to go through that shit when I get older. True story.
Yeah.
True story. So, it's... And that took about 10 years for me, if not more. So,
right.
Do you
Well, it's just,
tell me about?
I'm at the point in my life where pretty much all of my friends interact in a way that's largely physical, whether that be activities or even throwing darts and stuff and when we go out and stuff. So I have a hard time kind of understanding a way that I can connect with them and be involved, because I can't do a lot of the physical stuff that I used to be able to. And
What can you do?
frustrating.
What
But
can
what
you do?
It's a loaded question. I mean, I can do anything, I guess, is the answer.
No. I don't want to hear what you're supposed to say. Like, what can you do? Can you, go to movies, hang out, socialize?
Yeah, and I love that. But it definitely, I feel as though that leads to me just being an observer on the outside looking in many things.
Yes.
And it's fulfilling, not as fulfilling as I would like it to be. I would love to go to bowling alleys with my friends and actually bowl.
Right.
But I'm just not able to. So, I don't know.
Right.
It definitely gives me a perspective which isn't that great.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I don't know. Well, it's definitely difficult to see myself being a big part of other people's lives when I can't really get in there and mix it up with them like I had before.
Yeah. Right. It takes a long time to learn about that. Your friends are young, I assume.
Yeah, I'm 24.
Yeah. And sure, and at that age, their social activities are going to be physical, and however you guys socialize, if it's going to bars or whatever, you can still do that with them, I assume.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at this age, guys don't like to sit around and talk. And, I found myself very often sitting around with women, girlfriends and wives, while the guys were out playing ball. I went out with the guys when they played ball, and that felt like hell. And then I would stay back and hang out with the wives and girlfriends, and that felt worse. So I went back.
Well, because none of them are single, so that's an issue.
Pardon?
Well, when you hang out with the girlfriends and the wives, none of them are single, so that's not any fun.
Oh, all right. But anyway, what I was going to say is, when I did hang out with those, that was even worse. So I'd go back to the ball field, and now I still do. And I watch, and I love watching. I just love watching, and part of that is a brain thing. Part of it is your age and your friends' ages, and it's. Let me tell you what I've learned. That the only way I can feel safe, and this is right from my accident when I was 33, is to talk about my feelings, my vulnerability. Now, most guys aren't wired that way, but talk about my feelings. And a lot of guys aren't going to be comfortable with that. And, I did lose friends, but I found there's a lot of guys also who are comfortable, who do understand. And I've developed over the years some very close male friends because they are comfortable when I talk about my fears or my hurt or feeling like an outsider. I talk about that, and the more I say I feel like an outsider, the less I actually feel like an outsider. So it's just a thought. I don't know if you're comfortable doing that or not, but if these relationships are important to you, pick the guys who you feel the most close to, and tell them what it's like for you. Ask them if they would listen, and then tell them what it's like, and see what happens. It's risky. It's really risky.
Right.
Remember I talked about my grandson who took his hand off that chair, took his hand off of what felt secure,
Mm-hmm.
It's risky. It's scary.
Right, because you don't want to feel as though you're going to lose something.
Right. Right.
Not in a situation that I can easily make
but
other
wouldn't
friends.
it be wonderful if the guy said to you, hey, Ben, I never realized that. Thanks for telling me. It would change everything for you, huh?
Suppose so.
All right. Just a thought. Please keep us posted. Come back to the chat, to our chat rooms there. Healing the Heart Line. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for calling in.
Yep. Thank you.
So I'd like to, before we go, Rob, I want to read Sharmi's lesson to me. So Sharmi's text to me.
Sure.
Sharmi said, my views on sex and intimacy. I get orgasm with only the man who makes me feel like a princess to him. I had many partners, but none gave me the sense of security I hoped for and the care and affection I longed for. Ultimately, I got someone I deeply love, and we cannot marry because he's already married. I do not wish that he jeopardizes his marital life. Neither do I want to lose his company. So life is going on somewhere. He has helped me to feel like I'm a complete woman. I'm thankful to him for letting me explore myself. Sharmi, I've got to tell you, I know 3 women who are in your exact same position. And, it's not for me to judge, but I am happy to hear that anyone I care about is growing and developing and learning more about love. So I just think that's wonderful. And to the guys, listen to Sharmi. It's about the way a man loves a woman. It's not about the way a man makes love to a woman. It's about the way a man loves her. And we can do that even better now, post-accident. We can do it even better. All right, so...
Yeah, I'm afraid we're out of time.
We are, yeah.
I put on the chat that for people that have additional questions or just want to read some of the other stuff Dan has written, ChristopherReeve.org/drdan, Dr. Dan, ChristopherReeve.org/drdan will take you to our community, which is we just relaunched it, so it's got a lot of it's much easier to get around in, I think. So check it out, and Dan goes in there once a week and answers questions and posts stuff. So feel free to put some more questions in there, or follow up, or again continue to let us know how you're doing for the people we got to talk to today. And it was wonderful. What a great group of people we had today.
It really was. Thank you so much.
Very open. It's appreciated.
Yeah, I do. I do too. All right, so we'll see you guys next month.
Yeah, first Wednesday. We'll go back on our regular schedule, right?
Spring.
Yes, thank goodness.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you, everybody.